UK handles on Twitter and Insta, trying to promote happiness, positivity, sharing good, positive stories. I think that's one of the things that can be done, because I have a fairly sizable number of followers these days, and just get people to think about the good things. So that's one aspect of what I'm trying to do. But of course, the last couple of weeks, along with many of my other colleagues, including our mutual friends in Mumbai, our biggest focus has been on trying to get our British nationals back to the UK.
Wonderful. So once again, thank you for joining me on this live show. I'm today talking with Dr. Andrew Fleming. He is the British Deputy High Commissioner for Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. We've had a bit of tech issues this morning. I woke up and my laptop didn't work. So I have my colleague Vanshika in the studio with me, and we've been trying to figure it out. She in the studio, me on my phone outside as a guest trying to do this show. But life is all about uncertainty and being positive in spite or despite that. So Andrew, can you just share a little bit about uncertainty and how, you as a person deal with it, but also as your role as a diplomat? Because, you've been in several countries and, life is never easy. There could be a natural disaster, or like we are currently going through a pandemic, which is a medical disaster. You can say a medical crisis. And how do you, stay positive, because you are a leader and everybody is looking at you for guidance?
Well, I mean, every situation you face is different. I think you have to remain calm and try to assess what is going on around you and what you need to do and what you need to adapt. I think of all the things I've faced in the past, this is probably, without doubt, the biggest and most difficult. I'm responsible for my team. I have about 20 people working for me, and I need to make sure that they're okay, that their family situations are okay. So that's one aspect. And I need to keep in contact with my wider network. I'm the only British colleague based in these states for the British government, but we have got in eight other locations. So we keep in touch quite regularly, which is really important. And then we have to think about our stakeholders, and that's really because of our focus on repatriations. That's the last, but in many ways, one of the most important pieces of the jigsaw. How we maintain those relationships. For diplomats, relationships are everything. So we need to find new ways of connecting, communicating, and maintaining those relationships. And I have to thank you, Elsa, for this initiative, because this has actually given me an insight to a whole new world that I've never experienced before. So thank you.
Yes. I mean, honestly, when the lockdown started, and I was thinking, okay, what is it that I can do every day for the period of the lockdown, which will not only add value to my life, but to others as well. And I realized that I had so much to share in terms of work from home and my experiences, etc. And I had a wonderful network of friends like yourself. So I said, I'm going to start this daily reflections. And it has been such a blessing for me, because I have to wake up every day and get dressed. So it sets a tone and a routine to my day. And of course, the conversations have been extremely enlightening. So, but, I think you are a great communicator. I met you, before I met you in person, I met you on Twitter. We were Twitter friends. And I love your handle, Andrew Fleming 007, born.
Andrew 007 UK.
Yes, Andrew 007, yeah. So I think that's amazing. I was at Kingfisher Airlines, and my last job was Vice President Network Planning. And one of our first international flights was to London. And my boss said, I want the Bombay flight number to be 007. So that was our flight number.
Oh, I should have been around for that, huh?
Yeah, you should have, because it was one of the best services ever. in Kingfisher First, we used to serve a thali, you know, and you love food, right? Because on your Twitter, you're constantly experimenting with the local food. You participate in the cultural events. And I really want to talk about your role as a cultural ambassador, how important it is in today's world. Can you share a little bit about your experiences regarding that?
Sure, I can. I mean, I think that if you're going to be privileged to represent your country anywhere in the world, you're going to have the best experience if you really embrace yourself into the culture and community of that country. So, you know, when I've lived in Uganda, when I've lived in Ghana, Nigeria, and now here in Hyderabad, in Telangana, that's really first and foremost among the thing that you know, I try to do. And I think, you know, you get so much back from it. I think appreciating the culture of wherever you're trying to live and operate is one of the key things to knock down any barriers that might exist between where you are and what you want to be and what you want to achieve in that place. You get so much warmth and positivity back from, you know, maybe 99% of people. There's always going to be one or two that will try to make trouble. That's the case in every walk of life. But by and large, you know, the warmth I get from that is amazing. And at the same time, it's so satisfying to really get to that level, privileged level of understanding about the people that you're working with, understanding their beliefs, understanding their traditions, and being invited to so many different festivals and ceremonies and other activities that you just wouldn't otherwise have a chance, even if you're a tourist. You never really get these opportunities. So I'm very, very lucky, very privileged, and you know, I've had so many wonderful experiences since I started this game of moving around the world.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now and ask you, where do you think you get the best Indian food? Is it in the UK or is it in India?
Oh no, they're definitely in India. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I don't think you can really. There's one or two restaurants in the UK that do fairly authentic Indian food, but I mean, most people from India that go to the UK are shocked by what they get from any restaurant that purports to be Indian. I mean, it's anglicized food, which is really, you know, most of it you can't find here. And when British people come to India, they're expecting to get the same, and they're equally shocked at first. It takes some time to adjust, but eventually, you know, they when they go back to the UK, they say the food never tastes the same again. You know, and I think that's really true of just about any cuisine. If you can eat it in the country or the region where it's come from, that's probably the place you're going to have the most authentic and best experience.
You know, I recently saw one of your pictures on Twitter where you and your family had, I think you had posted from your previous posting in Africa where you and your family had dressed up in traditional, was it Ghanaian or Nigerian clothing? And
well,
you look really good.
I think the one you saw was probably Nigeria, because that's where we were last time. And we became known for doing that there.
And is it very... So my point is that if you're a diplomat, and usually, I mean, I'm not familiar with the British system, but the US system is like 3-year postings. How hard is it to, you know, immerse yourself in the culture? And what are the tips that you have for people to really get to know the locals? Because you may visit a country, you may spend a holiday, or may go on a business trip, but it's nothing like actually staying in a country and realizing the challenges and the opportunities that that country offers.
Absolutely, you're right. I mean, I've just been very lucky that the countries that I've been sent, in every case, have been countries where the people really are welcoming and open to visitors and extremely hospitable. You know, but actually, I think that is human nature in the vast majority of cases wherever you go. I think what the top tip would be is that you have to show a genuine interest, not this pretense, but absolutely a genuine interest in the culture you're emerging in and what you want to learn about. And you listen to people, you learn quickly how to show respect in a culturally appropriate way locally. As soon as you start being seen to do that, the invitations will come thick and fast. I find it very hard to say no to things. So, the first couple of years here, this is why I mentioned, my wife and family hardly saw me because I was just going from one thing to the next. I'm just beginning to slow down a little bit now because of this situation. but actually, yeah, I mean, and every engagement you have in life, and I don't just believe this in terms of being a diplomat, I think it applies to everybody. Every single person you meet is an opportunity. Now, you can't take every opportunity that comes your way. You can't get to know very well every single person. But in this kind of role, you do have the opportunity to meet and engage with lots of people. And if you can invest 2 or 3 minutes to speak to several people rather than just wave and have the selfie or whatever that people like to do here, you get a completely different experience at a different level. And quite often you get a connection out of that. So many people I've met that way, I've kept in touch with. The people that I've kept in touch with, they've become friends. Opportunities have come from that, whether they've been on our trade side and in terms of doing business between UK and India, or whether they've been more on the side of somebody who's just doing incredible work within their small organization, and how we can perhaps help them a little bit and give them a little bit of a platform to get their voice out better, whatever. But almost everything, every time you meet someone, it is an opportunity. Look at it that way, and a chance to learn. If you do that, I don't think you can go very far wrong.
What have you enjoyed most about your time in India?
Oh, God, that's a very difficult question, because since I got off the plane on the 23rd of July 2017, every day has just been amazing. Really. I mean, the experiences have been so diverse. What I think I enjoy is the uncertainty. I quite thrive on just not knowing what's going to come next. And apart from COVID, I think everything else has been thrown my way. I've really, really been able to enjoy and embrace. And even COVID, something positive, as I've discussed, has come from it in terms of a little bit of balance in terms of family life. But India is just full of the unexpected. It's the people, in short. It's the people here, the people you meet, the incredible stories that come up every day. So many people are so selfless in what they do and genuinely just want to help others. That's their mission. And I just love that kind of philosophy. So I've met some wonderful people, yourself included, of course, when we met in Mumbai. And yeah, I'm blown away by it. And of course, I also I'm quite into the heritage and history side. So, you never have to go very far without seeing some building which has got amazing history and is just, almost forgotten. Nobody in the world knows about it. And you can try and bring that to life and share it and tell the story and hope that more people will want to come and visit that place. Even Hyderabadis tell me that I've highlighted places here that they didn't know existed. So that's another nice thing.
I saw your posts on Hampi. You recently went to Hampi on a holiday. And I remember, even though I was in aviation for 20 years, the first time I heard about Hampi was when my cousin from the UK was backpacking across India. And she said, I want to go to Hampi. And I'm like, where is that? And then much later in Kingfisher, we actually had a flight to Hampi. And I'm sorry to say, but there were no Indian tourists on that flight. They were mainly filled with foreigners because they were more knowledgeable about our own heritage sites. But I did go to Hampi myself, and we had the place to ourselves. And what is the most amazing is that unlike Greece or Athens, where you have to imagine some of these ancient structures, this is like a lot of it is visible, can be seen. And it's right there. And to think about Hampi, it was one of the richest kingdoms. It had an army of 150,000 people at that time. So you can imagine the size of that place. It was just amazing, and I enjoyed looking at your pictures too. Yeah.
Thank you.
So somebody asked, I think it's Kumar who asked, what is your favorite food apart from biryani?
No, I think breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and a proper home cooked South Indian breakfast is amazing. There's one politician here. His name's Harish Rao, and I think he is the person who has the distinction of getting the largest number of votes ever as an MLA. He invited me home for breakfast a few months back, and he actually served all the breakfast himself to us, and sat and chatted and gave us so much time. And it was just one of those amazing experiences. I've had lots of breakfasts here, but that one just somehow stands out. It was just completely simple idlis and dosa and homemade chutneys, and it was just a lovely experience to enjoy that in an Indian household, which is always going to be better, by the way, than in a 5-star hotel somewhere.
And you get a real flavor of how people live, right? I mean, at the end of the day, on a people-to-people level, there's more good in this world than,
Absolutely.
than not so good. Yeah. It's great. I know people love you in your region, because I can see your timeline is always busy, and I can see from the live comments there are people asking you to stay healthy, stay safe, and they're concerned about your health, and they're very happy to have you on board. I wanted to touch upon the point on uncertainty, and you said India, one thing that amazes you is the uncertainty. What about our jugaad, our innovation on the fly? Do you find that to be also interesting? The hacks that we come up with, because in the West, people spend a lot of time planning things. And we are like, okay, we'll get it done. And, the deadline's approaching and you wonder, is it going to get done? And it does get done, So are you constantly surprised with it?
I mean, I guess I came from Nigeria, and there was a lot of similarity between Nigeria and India. This is one of the things where I just thought, how is this ever going to happen? And it did. And that's very similar to here. It's like, it can happen, but we're going to do it our way, and we'll make sure it happens. I mean, Hyderabad itself is a city of innovation. And already, I think, since we've had this COVID situation, there have been, a lot of stories about different things people have come up with, which might be able to be useful in the future in terms of the fight against COVID. And I know that a lot of people are doing great work and research. But I mean, it's another thing since I stepped off that plane. The levels of innovation and entrepreneurship that exist here are just quite incredible compared to many other parts of the world. And the energy, and there's all these little places around where people are constantly just trying to invent and come up with new ideas. I've been to a few since I've been here. All kinds of solutions. And what I like also is a lot of them are not about making huge amounts of money and profit. They are about changing people's lives for the better. There's one place I went called the Makers Hive, where they were trying to make a bionic arm. Of course, you can find bionic arms already in much of the Western world, but prohibitively they're too expensive for so many people here. So they're trying to make one just for a fraction of the cost of the one in the ones you can import. And they were working with one woman who said that she wanted to hug her child. She had only one arm, and she can't hold and hug her child. So they've been using her as the as a person that they were trialing this arm for, and they managed to get to that point, and they got her to hold and hug her child with this arm that was, I think, 5% of the cost of what this pathetic arm would be in another, if it came from the West, which I just think is, is lovely. So it's one of many stories I could tell in that space.
I'm a Chevening alumni, and I was part of the Chevening Oxford Gurukul in 2017. It was an amazing experience. So thank you for that. Your government has been sponsoring a lot of Chevening scholars from all over the world. In India itself, we have thousands of people, including a lot of bureaucrats, some chief ministers too. And even someone like Amitabh Kant is a Chevener. We have a Chevening parliamentarians program as well. And yesterday, in fact, I interviewed Shabnam Siddiqui, who is a Chevener, and she is the director at UN Global Compact Network India.
Wow.
Chevening is such an amazing program. And, I wanted to talk about the power of networks. Why does the British government invest in, say the Chevening program, or even the Duke of Edinburgh scholarships, of which again I'm part of, the Commonwealth Leaders program? How do you think that these networks and these exchange programs are useful and helpful to Indians?
Well, not just Indians, but Chevening is, I don't have the stats with me. I think it's offered in about 160 countries around the world, which is a huge number, and that's our flagship scholarship program. India has the most alumni of any country in Chevening, and we're sending about 50 people a year for full masters, and about another 50 people for Gurukul and other fellowships like you did in different areas. And I think, it builds a connection and a bridge between the UK and the people that we've chosen. It's always highly competitive to be successful for any Chevening award. We've just did interviews. In fact, for the first time ever, we did the interviews by Skype. So I just did the interviews the week before last for next year's batch because we're still determined to carry on with our Chevening program. And brilliant candidates as ever. But we're always looking for people who really are leaders and really do get that importance of networking. One of the questions, as you will remember, is very much around networking and how you use a network and so on. And I think that is so important. It's very much what I try to do. I can't achieve anything without bringing other people with me, without having a network. So the idea of Chevening completely plays into that philosophy. It's been going on a lot longer than, I've been in diplomacy. So I think we really do benefit as a country. It just makes that connect between the UK and whichever country. We can say India. Your President Modi, talks about the living bridge. And everybody who is a Chevener is a living bridge between the UK and India, which I think is very special. And that has to be a win-win in both directions. And because we pick people out that get the importance of leadership, get the importance of networking, I think that is something that continues to happen after they've come back. There's always that ongoing connection, that ongoing identification of opportunities, and some things that can come from that, whatever their field might be. So I think it's brilliant. And as for the other one you mentioned, the Duke of Edinburgh scheme, of course, that's something that is operated across the Commonwealth. So again, we have 54 Commonwealth countries around the world, and we have people that have been through that program across all of those countries. So I think that's equally a really exciting program. And as the world begins to shrink, with all of this digital communication and all, it's much easier to deliver something and achieve something, even if it's by dealing with and working with somebody that you've never physically met or only may have met once, like us. We've only met once yet. We have this connection. Even the other day, you replied to a tweet with one of the organizations here that's doing something on mental health, Rubaru, and violence against women. And you said, let's collaborate on this. And, that's one very recent example of how networks can work and, how things can go from there. So, yeah, that's great. And I hope that will come off.
Absolutely. And I think Chevening and even the Commonwealth Leaders Program is such an amazing community. They have always come to our aid to collaborate as well as to provide expert knowledge. So, for example, we've had youth innovation challenges and we needed mentors, and several of them stepped up pro bono to mentor young people, to help them, make their ideas into working prototypes. So I think this is an amazing community. It is for all levels of people. So from students who can apply for master's programs in some of the best universities in the UK, to professionals, to parliamentarians, I think you should never leave this opportunity. So do check out the Chevening page and set a reminder for when it opens up, because they've just completed the round of interviews for next year, but you can start preparing your application for the following year and, select the courses that you want. There's a wide variety of courses, and I really, really would recommend it. Well, thank you, Andrew. This has been such an amazing conversation, despite all the tech challenges to begin with. I've really, really enjoyed. So one last question, since we are also streaming live on Crossword and Shopper Stop. So Crossword is the bookstore. Are you reading any books? Do you have the time to read? And if you're reading, which book are you reading, or which has been your favorite book?
Oh, God. I have to confess that the last 2 or 3 weeks have been such that I haven't even picked a book up. I've read so many different books. I mean, I think that I go through cycles of when I read and when I don't read. And often I like to read before I travel, and try and read 1 or 2 novels that friends recommend, just to get a sense about how life is in a country. Somebody recommended I read A Suitable Boy before I came to India, which was quite an epic challenge to read, about 900 pages. I believe there's supposed to be a sequel coming out to that, but I haven't seen it yet. But I did get through it, and I actually learned quite a lot of things, little anecdotes in that, because it's written and it's very much into the nuances of individuals' life and all. There was lots of little bits and pieces that came out of that I've seen play out in the nearly 3 years that I've been in India. But I also like, more often when I'm actually somewhere, I prefer reading more factual things. So there's a young woman who is just a nomad, really, a global nomad who travels, who's from India and has been traveling alone all over the place, called Shivya. And she wrote a book called The Shooting Star. So that's currently top of my pile of to read books. I brought it from her when she came to speak in Hyderabad a few months ago, and it's worked its way up. So that's the next book I'm going to actually read. But I'm a big, passionate fan of traveling and experiencing the world, as you've probably gathered. And I really think it's great that this young woman's doing that and encouraging other young women to do the same thing.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing your thoughts with us. For everyone who joined us late, Andrew Fleming is the British Deputy High Commissioner to Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. He's been sharing his thoughts on being a cultural ambassador for his country in our country, and how he advances people-to-people relations. So do watch the replay and join me tomorrow. I'm talking to Roselle Mero. She is a social entrepreneur from the northeast of India. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us. It's been such a delight hosting you.
It's been a real pleasure to be with you. Can I just say happy Ramadan to all of our Muslim friends across India, and we're going to see if we can do an online iftar event at some point during the period of Ramadan, because I think that would be another nice opportunity of not letting COVID get in the way of an important tradition. Thank you so much for having me, and let's keep in touch.
Yes, and please follow Andrew Fleming on Twitter. He's very active, Andrew007. So
UK.
you can't forget that. Thank you, Andrew. And Vanshika, you may end the broadcast. Thank you, Vanshika, for this amazing support.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.